Hello and welcome to the Rivian R1S. Probably the most interesting, compelling, go anywhere, do anything, put your kids in here, put your dogs in the back vehicle out there. I absolutely love the Rivian R1S. This is a brand new one and we're going to be doing a full new car vehicle prep on this. So going through, getting the car washed, decontaminated. We're going to be doing a full paint correction on this, polish of course, and then most importantly, protecting it. So we're going to be doing a full ceramic coating on the paint, on the trim, on the wheels, and tidying up anything else on this vehicle, making it look better than it did when it rolled off the factory line in Normal, Illinois. So welcome back to another out of spec detailing video here from Clear Detailing in Northern Colorado. Let's jump into it. Well, as you guys know, I have had a fair share of Rivians through the shop, and I have never worked on LA Silver. I'm curious to see what you guys think of this color. I think it's one of those that people sleep on a lot of because there's so many other cool Rivian colors out there. As a detailer, I love silver. This is a really light silver, a nice metallic, reminds me a lot of Porsche GT silver. The nice thing about silvers, hides a lot of scratches, it doesn't show dirt as easily, hides water spotting. It's really an awesome color that I think a lot of people just go, it's silver, it's kind of boring. I personally love it. I love the contrast of the bright silver here, the dark accents up here, you know, all the plastic liners and things like that. So really, really excited for this one. I'm curious to see how this paint reacts. Every Rivian I work on, the paint kind of reacts differently to compounding and polishing, whether it's a little bit harder, a little on the softer side. They have, you know, non-metallic and full metallic and kind of somewhere in between. They make some awesome colors. So after this car, I'll only have two Rivian colors left to work on, the launch green and the yellow. So hopefully we can get those through the shop here at some point. But let's walk through of what we're going to be doing on this R1S in a little bit more detail. So the full process is, this is basically a 1,000-mile R1S. The customer picked it up last week, went on an 800-mile road trip right away. I just love that. I really like the spirit of Rivian owners that they want to go on an adventure with their new electric SUV or truck. And as you can see, this thing's definitely been off-road already. I just think it is so cool how people are buying, you know, basically $100,000 rigs, taking them on these massive adventures. I just absolutely love it. And importantly with doing that is it be protected. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. So first off, we're going to get the car prepped for compounding and polishing. So basically we need to get the paint cleaned up, get all the dirt off of it, get all the grime out of there and decontaminate it so we can put it in the detail bay, go through the whole paint correction. Now you may ask yourself, why are you paint correcting a brand new car? I'll tell you, Rivian is not alone in their new cars having, you know, sanding marks here, rub marks, few scratches here and there. It is common throughout the industry, no matter what car you are buying. So we want to get the paint absolutely perfect before we basically seal it in with the ceramic coating later on. So after the compound, it's going to come back out here into the wash bay, get re-washed. That compounding session creates so much of this white powder compound dust, and just got to get all of that cleaned off. I'll probably leave areas like this down here on the rocker panels a little bit dirty after the first wash because it doesn't really make sense to clean it and then re-clean it with all that compound dust. So you'll probably see me leaving all this dirt on here and you're going to go, what the heck is this guy doing? Trust the process. So after it gets re-washed, we're going to focus on these aero wheels. Now the 21-inch aero wheels, in my personal opinion, not the prettiest wheel out there, especially with the covers on. But my customer brought me basically a wrap kit that covers all of this area, I believe in satin black. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that later on in the video. I may show that in a video. I may make a separate video. I'm not totally sure, but I'll definitely update you once they're done and once we get a little farther into this detail. So after it's washed, after the wheels are done and coated, we actually pull the wheels off, coat the barrels, coat all of the calipers, clean up the suspension. Really nice way to make this thing look. It's going to go back into the detail bay, get polished up. All the areas like this that are super challenging to polish, Rivian's non-metallic black is kind of a pain in the butt to deal with, but I've got it dialed in finally after doing so many Rivians. After it's polished, we're then going to be working on the main big areas of ceramic coating. So ceramic coating the paint with Geon Infinite Base Type 1, their pro level only coating. Absolutely love this stuff. And then lastly, these areas. Getting all of this black plastic trim coated, it looks horrible from the factory. It looks so dull. It just, yeah, really doesn't pop. So we're gonna be putting a UV protectant coating on there. Just makes it stay nice for years and years to come. So super pumped with that. And then any last detail we'll be going through. But I think now it's time to start the actual wash process and get this thing cleaned up and ready for compounding. Well, we've now got the R1S completely cleaned up, ready for compounding. Now, I just spent a couple of minutes walking around the car with my Scan Grip light, looking for defects, picking out scratches, and I've highlighted some of the areas that are of more concern, more deeper scratches or imperfections in the paint, but we're gonna be able to get all of these out. Now, I have to say, I am extremely impressed with this particular R1S as far as the fit and finish, how all the panels align. If you guys have watched this channel before, you know that I heavily scrutinize these cars through our build quality videos. And I have to say a massive improvement is happening at Rivian as far as panel gap alignment, fit and finish, as well as importantly to me as a detailer, their paint quality. Seems like their paint booth is really getting dialed in on these cars. This has been 15,000 of this particular R1S, and I have found one paint nib and one sanding mark on this entire vehicle, and I'm going to highlight that here in a minute. So super impressed with that. Now I'll tell you, this LA Silver is really challenging for me to point out scratches and things like that, but there's definitely a few areas that I can show you on camera so you can get an idea of defects that I'm seeing and areas that need to be a little bit improved, if you will. So this mark here indicates this entire area being polished. Now it is next to impossible here to see. You'll see a faint amount of ghosting in this area, a few little scratches here and there. I'm seeing a little bit of some watermarks in here. Again, very challenging to pick up on camera. An area like this though, with this really deep scratch, as you may be able to tell right there in the light, we should be able to get that compounded out no problem, and definitely some scratches to either side of it. But this is a really beautiful color. I'm really digging this LA Silver. It really pops super nicely and gives a good amount of hiding to scratches and water spots and things like that. That's why I'm a huge, huge fan of silver. Now this area over here on this front fender is the only area that I've seen that had a paint nib. So if you'll notice right above that light, you see that dark spot. That is a paint nib. So basically a piece of debris gets in the paint under the clear coat, and they have tried to actually sand it out. So hopefully you can see right there around the light, there is some sanding marks. You can see it's basically like this little disc, if you will. So they go in with a little sander, then try and polish it out after. On older Rivians, or earlier Rivians, I guess I should say, these were everywhere. I would see a dozen, maybe 2 dozen of these spots all around the paint, and they're actually getting these dialed in. So super big congrats to Rivian for really improving these areas, because I am super, super happy to see that. Now, a few things back here. Of course, in this door here, on the rear door, you can see a little bit of scuffing, a few scratches there. Nothing that we're not going to be able to compound out. Definitely wanted to note that there. Here on this rear door, you can see we've got this little bit of a scuff mark, maybe, if you will, here. That should be easily polished out. Shouldn't be an issue at all. Back here, we have a similar scuff mark and some good scratching around it, if you can see it right there. So almost looks like somebody's tried to maybe wipe that with a finger, maybe even a towel, to try and get that scuff off. Here on the taillights, very common with what I see for all manufacturers. These are super soft plastic materials, and if you're not using the right compound polish techniques, you're gonna get haze like this, and we definitely have a lot of it here. You can see that it goes actually all the way down the full light bar, so we'll get that all polished out, no problem. As I'm seeing here, between this black and red, you can see definitely a little bit of white compound in there, which is indicative of this area being polished. And then moving on to one of the most difficult areas on any R1S, and this is the whole non-metallic black cap, if you will, here around the trunk lid and then all the way down the roof line. Let me show you what I mean. So here, you can see all of that haze, all the scratches, all the rotary marks. Very, very common. Pretty much on every R1S I see, this is very, very normal. You can see some weird adhesive marks, a lot of rotary trails in there. This is very common. This is on all manufacturers, but Rivian especially seems to have a pretty serious issue with how they polish these out, either at the factory or at the service center. Like areas up here, very heavily hazed. So they've definitely been working on this and polishing a bit. And as I can see in this aluminum, it's slightly discolored from that. Hopefully it's picking up on camera. You can see that area right to the top there. They have definitely got some compound and polish on there. So we'll get that all taken care of. Moving here to the B pillar, an area that most people struggle with as far as detailers, getting this area polished out. Very heavily hazed. This is going to be an area which is easy for me to polish out, but just takes some time. So we'll do a nice little compound and polish here. As you can see, some deeper scratches down this side. And of course, the A pillar, very, very heavily hazed here. Look on that aluminum piece. See, the light's a little tricky, but you can see in that it almost looks kind of like a burn mark. That's very typical. If you don't tape this area off properly, then you get this little mark here. We hopefully can polish that out to make it look a little bit better, but definitely a lot of hazing going on here. See a few remnants of bug stains because this is not protected. So these have actually started getting into this paint. Very similar to the front end, which happens quite a bit, and it's not ceramic coated. They just really start eating away that paint. Now, on these mirrors, Rivian makes some of the most challenging to polish non-metallic black here on the bottom of the mirrors. It is completely different from all of this area. This stuff is insanely soft, and this particular one is no exception. Look how deep the scratches are on this around that camera. You can see they polished this area here and actually got into the base of that. So we're gonna need to do a little bit of work there to make that look quite a bit better. But let's move around the vehicle here and see what else we can find on it. So here I noted an area that has some weird hazing going on. Let me see if I can get the camera right. Notice to the edge how there's a little bit of this kind of wispy circular area. So I think this has actually maybe been sanded a little bit, but it's also got some weird off-gassing in the paint. Again, this silver, very, very challenging to pick anything up. But overall on this paint, it is looking extremely, extremely nice. So I'm very, very happy to see that. The non-metallic black around the window surrounds look pretty good, but some definite heavy, look at the heavy scratches in that. Wow, we'll definitely get that all dialed in. But overall, wow, very, very impressed with some improvements Rivian is making, especially in their paint department. How these cars are coming out, I would say, is still good. There's still slight room for improvement. I really wish these areas up here on this non-metallic black, they would just leave alone and ship them and let professional detailers, you know, do their thing on them. But nonetheless, I'm very, very impressed. So I think it's now time to get the headphones on, the polishers out, and really dive deep into this LA Silver R1S. Well, I'm super happy with the paint correction that we've done on this. We of course still have polishing left to do, but look at the clarity and gloss that has already come out of this paint. This paint reacts extremely nice to compounding. It's right in between hard and soft paint. Can get a lot of those defects out quickly, but using an aggressive compound in the areas we needed did not make a huge amount of haze on the paint, which is incredibly awesome. So really happy with LA Silver. Now the piano black areas were pretty easy to compound. I actually did more of a medium cut compound to cut down on the amount of haze that we put back into these areas, but they're looking a whole heck of a lot better. So now it's time to actually get the car re-washed. And you may be thinking, well, it doesn't look dirty. But I hope you can see this is all that compound dust I was talking about. Really important to get it out of all these nooks and crannies here. That's why I always wash these things twice, essentially. But very, very happy with the results. So next, time to pull it out into the detail bay. I'm first going to work on all of this black plastic trim, getting it all cleaned up. We are going to be coating all of that trim later on. So we need to make sure it's as clean as possible. You can see areas like this in here. We need to make sure we're going to get all of that cleaned up. We're then going to re-foam down the R1S here, do a high pressure rinse, probably clay the windows, few water spots that I was noticing here on the windows. So we'll get all of that taken care of. And then we will focus on the wheels as well today, pulling the aero caps off, pulling the wheels off, getting them coated, maybe working on the wrap on the face of these, and then cleaning up the wheel wells, of course. So let's get it pulled out here and get the R1S cleaned up. Well, I don't know about you guys, but this thing is truly starting to come together. It's always fun on these details because the cars have to get a little ugly before they get really nice looking. So they get compound dust all over them. So we've completed paint correction, we've rewashed it, got all that compound dust off, and importantly, already finished the wheels. Now these got a quite unique upgrade here. So these are the T-wraps that basically black out the aluminum diamond cut area on there. And I think they look fantastic. A really tedious install. So anybody doing these, it's really helpful to be able to take the wheels off, do it on a table. Really time consuming, really tedious work, but I think it looks incredible here on the R1S. Now, our next step. So I've already cleaned out all these little seams and everything here, getting all of that compounding residue out of it. And next, we are going to be kind of working on the finishing stages. So of course, we still need to polish the paint. Now, I'm very impressed with how this LA Silver reacted to compounding. All of the scratches came out super easy, but it didn't leave the paint hazy whatsoever. Now, a lot of the times you likely could just, wipe down this with your isopropyl alcohol or coating prep and coat it and it'd be fine. But just for me, I have to polish these. It's just the routine I go through on every car, no matter if it necessarily needs it or not. If we can get 1% more gloss on this thing, I'm gonna do it. So I'm really, really happy with how this LA Silver corrected. Now it's time to polish. Most importantly on polishing, all of these areas up here, this piano black that's super soft, super tricky to polish out. I've been using this new polish over here from Koch Chemie. It's actually called Microcut on a Rupes yellow foam pad. So I want to show you this here. This is the B pillar that we've already compounded. We have not yet polished this. And it's funny to me how much nicer this looks than even Rivian's finishing polish, or so they say, of what they did on these. Yeah, this is the rear cap here. Again, a little bit hazy. Let me bring you over to here because I've been working already polishing this entire section here, all of the window trim. I haven't done this huge black piece yet. It's kind of a pain in the butt to do, but look at the results there. That's how non-metallic black should look. If you see anything in the reflections like right there, that's just lint from the microfiber. We'll get all of that out. But this is absolutely dialed. I love to see this. Same here on the B pillar. That's how this should look. All of this piano black trim down here. This is all really tedious work, but that's what makes these details so much different than a lot of people, is taking the time to properly polish every single last nook and cranny on this thing. Super pumped with it. Now I think it's definitely time to put on a montage. Let's get the LA Silver polished up, and then next after that, you're gonna see it'll be for me tomorrow morning, for you just a couple of minutes. We're gonna actually ceramic coat the paint and all of this plastic trim. How much better does this trim already look? It looks amazing here. We've already got all the suspension cleaned up in there. We're in absolute low mode right now, just so I can reach those top sections up here, but super pumped. Let's get polishing. Take a look at this. This R1S is absolutely glowing, and this is not even the finished result now. So the paint is perfectly polished out. We've got all of the piano black trim around the entire R1S here, absolutely dialed in. All the mirrors, all the B&A pillars here, absolutely looks phenomenal. These Rivians plastics are super tricky to polish out. I've really had to adapt a process and a style to get these absolutely dialed in, keeping them contamination and residue free. But this thing truly looks incredible. And you join me on the actually last day of the detail. Now it's time to add, finally, protection. So we're gonna be using Geon Infinite Base Type 1 on the paint, getting it absolutely perfect. It's gonna just increase that gloss level even more. It's gonna give it protection for years to come. And importantly, we're gonna be coating all of the trim up today, doing the final details, cleaning the windows, dialing in the interior slightly, and getting all the door jambs cleaned up, making this thing look absolutely perfect for delivery tomorrow. So back here, these are our next steps. So we're gonna wipe the entire car down with prep. This is extremely important to make sure we get all of the polishing residue and oils off the paint so that the ceramic coating can physically bond to the actual paint. And again, like I said, we're gonna be using certified Geon Infinite Base Type 1. This stuff is top notch. Absolutely love it. So let's get this thing wiped down and put some protection on this LA Silver R1S. And here we are at the finish line with the LA Silver R1S. Completely done. Now I wish I would have filmed a little bit more today. It was kind of crunch time. This car is leaving tomorrow morning, a little bit late-ish at night here now, and just had to get this thing done. There's sometimes I just got to put the headphones in and plug away at these cars. So what we did since we last picked up, saw some window cleaning portions. Since we have coated the car, every last detail now has been taken care of. So coating areas like this in the grille, all of this plastic trim around, cleaning areas like the interior. So let me bring you inside and show you the beautiful forest edge interior here. Everything just completely dialed in, nice and satin look everywhere. Just cleaning it up. It wasn't super dirty, but wanted to get all the dust, a little bit of crumbs and things here and there. Dialing in all this trim because this is an area people really struggle with cleaning, and I've struggled with cleaning on Rivians. It's a very weird material, reacts very strangely to certain chemicals. May make a video on that later on. All the door panels completely dialed in here. You'll notice even in the door jambs, everything is just completely tidy, completely clean. That's the level of detail we get into here. Just love having this perfectly cleaned up. A really cool addition my customer asked me to install here was these little stainless steel kick plates. All R1Ts and R1Ss really get chewed up here as you get in the car, you hit this area, it gets really scratched up. I think this is a lot nicer implementation than a piece of paint protection film there. I also think it's gonna wear better. We'll definitely see after this car ages a bit, but really blown away with the Rivian here. Let me show you in the front trunk just some of the other details we go through. You also notice the charging light is going. Pretty cool option here. If you guys do bring your car in for detail, you get a free charge. I of course ask because some people are a little bit more particular with their battery pack than others. But I say, hey, free to charge here if you'd like. So this thing's gonna be charged up, ready for the customer to go tomorrow, and just awesome. So all this area under here, all this black plastic, everything is coated under here with a UV trim coating. It just looks so freaking nice. all areas like this just completely tidied up, no dirt or residue left behind. But I am truly blown away with how this LA Silver turned out. I think a lot of people, and I've said this multiple times in this video, are really sleeping on this color. It is such a gorgeous silver. Really reminds me of Porsche GT Silver, which is a huge compliment to Rivian because it's probably one of the best silvers on the market. But we're done for now. Let me know what you guys thought of this video style. More time lapse, just me working, not explaining quite as much. You know, these details, this car was, I guess, 4 days, and I probably put at least 40 hours into this thing, even though it's a brand new truck. Yeah, these things take a while to get properly dialed in when you go to the level that I do. So I'm curious to see, good or bad, what you think of this style of video. If you'd like to see more of them, of course, let me know. If you don't really like these, you know, definitely let me know as well, and how we can improve those. But anyways, thanks for watching. We'll join you on another out of spec detailing video very, very soon. Bye-bye.